The night of April 26, 2013, marked a chilling turn in the small town of Norton Shores, Michigan, when 25-year-old Jessica Heeringa disappeared under mysterious circumstances. A young mother and an employee at a local ExxonMobil gas station, Jessica vanished just before the end of her shift, leaving behind no witness and few clues. The absence of surveillance footage at her workplace only deepened the mystery, sparking a complex investigation that would unfold over the years. Jessica's disappearance captured the attention of both the local community and the nation. Media outlets picked up the story, circulating images of the young woman with a bright smile and broadcasting the eerie circumstances of her last known moments. The case not only highlighted the fears and vulnerabilities associated with working late hours in low-security environments, but also underscored the limitations faced by law enforcement in cases lacking physical evidence. As the search for Jessica extended from days to months and then years, the mystery continued to evolve, with numerous twists and turns. Leads were pursued and exhausted, suspects were identified and cleared, and the community's hope for finding Jessica alive waned. The emotional toll on her family, friends, and the investigators dedicated to her case grew with each passing day, each driven by the desire for resolution and justice. Jessica Heeringa was born on July 16, 1987, in the close-knit community of Muskegon, Michigan, just a short drive from Norton Shores, where she would later become a central figure in a heart-rending mystery. Growing up, Jessica was known for her creative spirit and lively personality. She loved art and often expressed herself through drawing and painting, activities that brought her joy and solace throughout her life. After completing high school, Jessica faced the challenges of early adulthood, balancing aspirations with the realities of economic and personal responsibilities. She was known for her resilience and work ethic, qualities that endeared her to those around her and shaped her path forward. In her early 20s, Jessica's life took a joyful turn when she became a mother. Her son was the center of her world, and she embraced motherhood with the same fervor and dedication she applied to every endeavor. Balancing motherhood and work, Jessica took a job as a night shift clerk at a local ExxonMobil gas station. The job was not just a means of support, but also a way to ensure she could spend as much time as possible with her son during the day. Those who knew Jessica at the gas station recalled her friendly demeanor and the ease with which she connected with customers. Her smile was a constant, even during late hours when the solitude of the night shift could weigh heavily. Jessica was not just a familiar face. She became a part of the daily lives of those in Norton Shores. Despite the challenges of single motherhood and the demands of her job, Jessica remained optimistic about the future. She had dreams of returning to school someday to pursue a degree in art or design, hoping to provide a better life for her son. Her family, particularly her mother and grandparents, were a strong support network, providing emotional and practical help whenever needed. Jessica's life, marked by her vibrant spirit and the love she had for her son, took an abrupt and tragic turn on that April night in 2013. The disappearance shattered the normalcy of the Norton Shores community and began a somber chapter that no one could have anticipated. As the investigation unfolded, Jessica's background and relationships would become key elements in piecing together the puzzle of her sudden and unexplained absence. April 26, 2013, was a day much like any other for Jessica Heeringa. She arrived for her evening shift at the ExxonMobil gas station on Sternberg Road in Norton Shores, a routine she had grown accustomed to. The station, located near a busy intersection, was a common stop for locals and passers-by alike. But the late hours tended to bring a quieter atmosphere. Jessica's shift started uneventfully. She served customers with her usual friendly demeanor, chatting briefly with regulars who knew her well. The evening progressed without indication of anything amiss. As closing time approached, Jessica prepared for her usual duties, counting the cash, cleaning up, and organizing for the next day. However, just before closing, at approximately 11 p.m., the situation took a dire turn. Unbeknownst to Jessica, a silver minivan pulled up to the back of the station. This seemingly innocuous event was actually the precursor to her disappearance. Surveillance cameras from neighboring businesses captured the vague outline of the minivan, but crucially, the gas station's own cameras were either non-functional or poorly positioned to capture any useful footage of the vehicle's driver or its movements. The last transaction recorded on the gas station's register was at 10:55 p.m. Shortly after, customers who entered the station found it eerily deserted. Jessica's purse and keys were found in the station, her car parked outside, clear indicators that she had not planned to leave on her own, or had she intended to leave for long. A call was made to 911 by a concerned customer after discovering the empty station. Police arrived swiftly, but Jessica was nowhere to be found. An immediate search commenced, involving police dogs and local volunteers. The area around the gas station was combed for any sign of Jessica or her abductor, but the lack of direct witnesses to the moment of abduction severely hampered the initial response. The police managed to gather some testimonies from people who were around the area that evening. A few mentioned seeing the silver minivan, and one witness described a brief interaction with a man driving a van that matched the description. However, these accounts provided no conclusive evidence, and no direct link could initially be made to Jessica's disappearance. The Norton Shores Police Department treated Jessica's case with urgency, aware that the first hours after an abduction are critical. Yet, as the night turned into morning, the community's hope for a quick resolution began to wane. Jessica's family was alerted and the news spread, causing shock and fear through Norton Shores and beyond. The investigation into Jessica Heeringa's disappearance was about to become a major focal point for the police, drawing in resources from state and federal agencies. As the first rays of dawn crept over Norton Shores on April 27, 2013, the local police department, led by Chief Daniel Shaw, had already declared the case of Jessica Heeringa a potential abduction. With no sign of Jessica at the gas station and her belongings left behind, it became clear that this was no ordinary missing persons case. The investigation quickly gained momentum, with law enforcement mobilizing an extensive search and media campaign. The Michigan State Police and the FBI were brought in, adding their expertise and resources to the local efforts. Flyers with Jessica's picture were distributed, and her description was broadcast across various media platforms, urging anyone with information to come forward. One of the first steps taken was to scour the limited surveillance footage available from neighboring businesses. While the gas station's own cameras were not operational, footage from a nearby restaurant showed glimpses of a silver minivan that had been seen parked unusually close to the gas station shortly before Jessica was last known to be there. Enhancements of the video footage tried to capture a clearer image of the vehicle and any potential suspects, but the results were inconclusive. The community rallied strongly behind the search for Jessica. Volunteers organized ground searches, combing through nearby wooded areas and fields. Social media became a crucial tool in spreading awareness, with Jessica's story reaching far beyond Michigan, garnering national attention. Early leads prompted investigators to look into various registered owners of similar vehicles, but each was methodically eliminated from suspicion through alibis or lack of further evidence linking them to the crime. The challenge of no direct eyewitnesses to the abduction itself complicated the situation, forcing detectives to rely heavily on circumstantial evidence and public tips, which flooded in but often led to dead ends. Detectives also looked into Jessica's personal life, interviewing friends, family, and coworkers. They looked into her recent interactions, checking if there were any recent conflicts or unusual encounters that could provide a motive for her abduction. However, nothing significant surfaced from these inquiries. Jessica was described consistently as a loving mother and a friendly, outgoing woman with no known enemies. As days turned into weeks with no sign of Jessica, the investigation expanded. Checkpoints were set up near the gas station, and police stopped cars that matched the description of the suspect vehicle. Statewide alerts were issued, and law enforcement across Michigan kept an eye out for any signs of Jessica or the mysterious minivan. Meanwhile, psychological profilers from the FBI joined the case, offering insights into the type of person who might be behind Jessica's disappearance. This helped to refine the focus of the investigation, but without new, actionable evidence, progress was frustratingly slow. The initial phase of the investigation gradually transitioned into a longer-term missing persons case. The immediate urgency was replaced by a more sustained, but no less determined effort to find Jessica and bring her abductor to justice. The community, while hopeful, began to brace itself for a long road ahead, with the haunting question of Jessica's fate hanging in the balance. The investigation into Jessica Heeringa's disappearance was characterized by numerous twists and turns, as investigators sifted through countless tips and leads that often led nowhere. Each clue seemed to promise a breakthrough, but more often than not, they only added to the frustration and complexity of the case. One of the most challenging aspects of the investigation was the flood of tips that came in from the public. Each had to be followed up, no matter how unlikely it seemed. Some tips led to supposed sightings of Jessica across the state and even out of state, which required coordination with other law enforcement agencies to verify. These sightings often turned out to be misidentifications, but each one had to be taken seriously, diverting resources and attention. In one instance, a tip came through about a woman who closely resembled Jessica, seen in a distant town. The local police were mobilized, CCTV footage was reviewed, and after several tense hours, it was determined that the woman was not Jessica. This pattern repeated itself numerous times throughout the investigation, each false lead bringing a fresh wave of disappointment. The case also attracted attention from several self-proclaimed psychics who offered their services to the police. Desperate for any assistance, some family members engaged with them, hoping for a supernatural edge in finding Jessica. These psychic tips varied wildly in their specifics and often sent search teams to remote or bizarre locations. While these efforts were well-intentioned, they ultimately led nowhere, adding to the emotional roller coaster experienced by Jessica's family and friends. The silver minivan remained a critical piece of the investigation. Police managed to enhance the video footage and generate a clearer image of the vehicle, leading to a renewed call for information from the public. This generated a new wave of tips, with several potential vehicles being reported and subsequently cleared. The investigators also explored the possibility that the minivan was linked to other crimes in the area. This line of inquiry opened up potential connections to other unsolved cases, but after extensive analysis, no definitive link could be established that connected any other incidents to Jessica's disappearance. As months turned into years, the case benefited from advances in forensic technology. DNA collected from the scene and from Jessica's belongings was reanalyzed using more sophisticated techniques, leading to some intriguing but ultimately inconclusive results. Law enforcement also utilized data analysis software to sift through phone records and digital footprints related to the case. This helped to narrow down periods and areas of interest. But the lack of direct evidence linking any specific individual to the crime continued to hamper the investigation. Despite the challenges and dead ends, the investigative team remained dedicated. The community's interest and involvement never waned, with annual vigils and continued media coverage keeping Jessica's story in the public eye. Jessica's family maintained a strong presence in the media and online, continually pushing for new leads and refusing to let her case fade into obscurity. As the years passed, the investigation into Jessica Heeringa's disappearance became a somber testament to the complexities of missing person cases. The persistence of both the community and the investigators, however, ensured that Jessica's case would never be forgotten, keeping alive the hope that one day the truth would emerge. Years passed with little resolution in the case of Jessica Heeringa, with the community of Norton Shores holding on to diminishing hope. However, in 2016, a sudden and unexpected breakthrough occurred that would significantly alter the course of the investigation. On May 16, 2016, a breakthrough came in a seemingly unrelated case. A young woman escaped a kidnapping attempt by a man named Jeffrey Willis in nearby Muskegon. She provided a detailed description of her attacker and his vehicle, which police quickly linked to similar descriptions connected with Jessica's case. The vehicle, a silver van, was seized by the police, and a search of Willis's home yielded disturbing evidence. Investigators found an arsenal of tools consistent with criminal abduction and harm in Willis's possession. This included syringes with sedatives, ropes, chains, handcuffs, and explicit photos of bound women. Significantly, among these items were belongings that could be directly traced back to Jessica Heeringa, including a folder labeled with her name, which contained photos and information about her. Further examination of Willis's digital devices revealed disturbing videos and images of women being abused, as well as a file detailing abduction plans. This digital footprint provided the damning evidence needed to charge Willis not only with the attempted kidnapping, but also directly linked him to Jessica's disappearance. Jeffrey Willis was charged with the kidnapping and murder of Jessica Heeringa, even though her body had not yet been found. His trial began in 2018, amidst intense public and media scrutiny. The prosecution presented a compelling array of physical and digital evidence, painting a grim picture of a predator who had meticulously planned his crimes. Witnesses and experts testified about the likelihood of Jessica being abducted and killed by Willis, supported by forensic evidence linking items found in his possession to Jessica. The defense argued the lack of direct evidence of Jessica's death and questioned the reliability of digital and forensic evidence. After a highly charged trial, Jeffrey Willis was found guilty of the kidnapping and murder of Jessica Heeringa. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a verdict that brought a profound, if somber, sense of relief to the community and Jessica's family. The conviction of Jeffrey Willis did not bring Jessica back, nor did it recover her remains, leaving a lingering wound for her family and friends. However, it did provide a form of closure in knowing the likely fate that had befallen her and seeing her abductor brought to justice. The breakthrough in Jessica Heeringa's case was a poignant reminder of the persistence required in solving missing persons cases and the importance of linking seemingly unrelated incidents. While justice was served through the legal system, the community of Norton Shores would forever be marked by the tragic loss of a beloved mother, friend, and neighbor. The case also spurred changes in local law enforcement protocols and community safety initiatives aiming to prevent such tragedies in the future. The trial of Jeffrey Willis for the kidnapping and murder of Jessica Heeringa was a focal point for both the local community and national observers, given the harrowing details and the long, painful wait for justice. Held in 2018, the proceedings were both a legal battle and an emotional ordeal for all involved. The prosecution built a strong case against Jeffrey Willis, presenting a range of evidence that included digital data, physical items from his van, and testimony about his behavior patterns and previous crimes. Key to their argument was the file found on Willis's computer that included disturbing content related to Jessica, which prosecutors argued showed premeditation and intent. Witnesses included the young woman who had escaped from Willis in 2016, whose testimony helped establish a pattern of predatory behavior. Experts in digital forensics detailed the contents of Willis's devices, which included plans for abducting women and other materials that indicated a history of meticulous planning for such crimes. The defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that no direct proof of Jessica's death was presented. They questioned the credibility of the digital evidence, suggesting it was not sufficient to conclusively prove Willis's intent or actions regarding Jessica specifically. The defense also highlighted the absence of Jessica's body, arguing that without it, a murder charge was not justifiable. The jury deliberated for several days, weighing the heavy emotional testimony against the legal standards for murder and kidnapping. The community awaited the verdict with bated breath, hoping for closure, yet bracing for any outcome. Jeffrey Willis was found guilty of both kidnapping and first-degree murder. The evidence, particularly the digital and physical evidence found in his possession linked to Jessica, was enough to convince the jury of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge sentenced Willis to life in prison without the possibility of parole, citing the heinous nature of his crimes and the need to protect society from his potential to do further harm. The sentencing brought a palpable sense of relief to the courtroom, particularly to Jessica's family and friends, who had endured years of uncertainty and pain. While the verdict did not bring Jessica back, it provided a legal closure to the case. For Jessica's family, it was a bittersweet moment. They had lost a beloved family member, but felt that justice had been served. The community of Norton Shores, so deeply affected by the case, also found some solace in knowing that the perpetrator was no longer a threat. The trial and its outcomes also spurred discussions about safety measures for workers in vulnerable settings and led to legislative efforts aimed at enhancing security protocols in similar employment situations across Michigan. Jessica's case became a catalyst for change, ensuring that her tragic disappearance would lead to positive changes in community safety and awareness. The conclusion of the trial did not mark the end of the story for Jessica Heeringa's family or for the Norton Shores community. The aftermath of such a high-profile case brought both closure and new beginnings in efforts to honor Jessica's memory. Despite the conviction, the location of Jessica's remains was still unknown. Her family, supported by the community and various nonprofit organizations, continued to search for her, hoping to find her and bring her home for a proper burial. The ongoing search efforts served as a reminder of the unresolved pain that lingered despite the legal resolution. Jessica's family and friends initiated several efforts to honor her life and legacy. They established scholarships in her name for students pursuing arts, reflecting Jessica's passion for creativity. Community safety programs were also enhanced, including more robust security measures at local businesses and educational campaigns about workplace safety. The case had a lasting impact on local and state policies. New laws were proposed and some enacted that required better security measures at gas stations and other places of employment that involved late-night shifts. Surveillance improvements and mandatory emergency protocols became more prevalent, influenced by the stark realities brought to light by Jessica's case. The community of Norton Shores worked to heal from the trauma of the case, with local leaders and residents coming together to support one another. Annual memorials were organized to remember Jessica, attended by those who wished to honor her memory and reflect on the lessons learned from her tragedy. Jessica Heeringa's disappearance and the subsequent investigation, trial, and community response encapsulate a narrative of loss, resilience, and justice. Her story, marked by tragedy, also brought about significant changes that aim to prevent such incidents in the future. The enduring hope to find her remains a poignant reminder of the ongoing journey towards closure, a quest that continues to define her legacy.